I have sat through the last hour here, and do I find it difficult to hear them spout righteous indignation about the Senate rules? I do, because when I hear the litany of those votes for those other nominees, 97-0, 98-0, the numbers for Justice Kagan, the number for Justice Sotomayor, the numbers for Justice Roberts, the numbers for Justice Alito, all I think about is the numbers for Justice.
Warm welcome. We have not been given an opportunity
to have a meaningful
hearing
Ashley,
on this
nominee.
Their two daughters.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleague, Senator Harris. Mr. Chairman,
Judge
we received 42,000 documents that we haven't been able to review last night, and we believe this hearing should be postponed.
This is an American people.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Directly from Judge Kavanaugh later this afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Chairman, may I be recognized, sir? Mr. Chairman, I appeal to the chair to recognize myself or one of my colleagues.
You're out of order.
Mr. Chairman, I appeal to be recognized on your sense of decency and integrity. This committee, sir, is a violation of even the values I've heard you talk about time and time again, the ideals that we should have. What is the rush? What are we trying to hide by not having the documents out front? What is with the rush? What are we hiding by not letting those documents come out? Sir, this committee is a violation of the values that we as a committee have striven for, transparency. We are rushing through this process in a way that is unnecessary.
But you spoke about my decency and you spoke about my decency and integrity, and I think you are taking advantage of my decency and integrity. So.
You are requesting
I would
the
ask
minority
that
to submit our questions to
I ask
you.
that you stop so we can conduct this hearing the way we have planned it. Maybe it isn't going exactly the way that the minority would like to have it go, but we have said for a long period of time that we were going to proceed on this very day, and I think we ought to give the American people the opportunity to hear whether Judge Kavanaugh should be on the Supreme Court or not. And you have heard my side of the aisle call for regular order, and I think we ought to proceed in regular order. There will be plenty of opportunities to respond to the questions that the minority is legitimately raising, and we will proceed accordingly.
Mr. Chairman, under regular order,
I am a former prosecutor, and I believe you look at the evidence before you. So my reaction to this was, of course, this is a very serious matter when you have the president's lawyer and the president's campaign chair, one convicted, one pleading guilty to such charges, especially the words of his lawyer regarding campaign finance. But what this means to me is to allow the Mueller investigation to continue. There are voices that want to shut it down. I think we have to get to the bottom of the truth, and I think we do that not only with regard to who else is implicated in this, but also with regard to protecting our country from foreign interference in our elections. This is something that isn't just about what happened in the past. It's what can happen in the future. We just had a briefing just this week from the head of the FBI, the president's national intelligence director, the head of Homeland Security, telling us, and I'm not telling you a secret because they've said it publicly at the White House, that the lights are blinking red, that they have seen this happen in 2016, and we're going to see it happen again if we don't protect ourselves. And that is why I am working every single day to pass the Secure Elections Act with my Republican colleague, Senator Langford, and working to make sure that we are protected. I just talked to Secretary of State Steve Simon this morning, that our elections are protected in Minnesota and across the country. So yes, these are serious charges, and we have to allow law enforcement to do their jobs. But at the same time, my job as a senator is to protect us going forward.
Okay. Jim Newberger, your reaction to what happened in court this week regarding the president.
You have people like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who have shown to be independent before, especially when it comes to women's rights and privacy.
But Amy and Jake, I have to stop you there. Amy, you know there's a case in Minnesota that involves hundreds of women whose breast cancer insurance is being canceled in the middle of treatment. You know this, and yet you're talking about women's rights and privacy rights. These women's privacy rights are violated because they've made a decision between themselves and their doctor, which is protected under the Minnesota Constitution as well as the U.S. Constitution, to finish and complete their breast cancer treatment. And yet you are pushing laws and judges who will stop that. Why are you doing this? This violates the spirit and the purpose of the federal law, the very legacy which you seek to inherit with your gender quotas to get in the Judiciary Committee. Why are you vitiating the civil rights laws and the women's rights and privacy rights laws of the women of Minnesota?
Again, the public pressure and focusing on what matters to the people here, that's going to be on our side. And then the other thing we have is some Republicans that have shown some independence over time, and then we have the right to ask questions and ask as many questions as we want in writing at the hearing, and we have to be ferocious about it so that the American people know what they're getting here.
Senator Chuck Grassley, let's listen in.
On the nomination of
Mr. Chairman.
Brett Kavanaugh
Mr. Chairman.
to serve as Associate Justice.
Mr. Chairman,
on the
I'd like to be
Supreme Court
recognized
of the
for a
United
question
States.
before we proceed.
Regular order, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized to ask a question before we proceed. The committee received just last night, less than 15 hours ago, 42,000 pages of documents that we have not had an opportunity to review or read or analyze.
You're out of order. I'll proceed.
We cannot possibly move forward, Mr. Chairman,
I
with this
extend a
hearing.
very warm
We
welcome
have not
to
been
Judge
given an
Kavanaugh,
opportunity to have a meaningful
his wife,
hearing on
Ashley.
this nominee.
their two daughters.
Mr. Chairman,
Their
I
extended
agree with my
family and
colleague,
friends.
Senator Harris. Mr. Chairman,
Judge
we
Kavanaugh's
received
many law
42,000
clerks
documents that we haven't
and
been able
everyone else
to
joining us
review last
today.
night, and we believe this hearing
I
should be
know this is an
postponed.
exciting